Back in August 3rd of 2001, Mia Thermopolis was given some information that changed her world. Some of you might know of Mia. Some of you may not have heard her story. Mia was just a regular girl attending high school. Maybe she was a bit of an ugly duckling, but she was smart. She wasn't the best student. She had one friend, right? Some of you know Mia's story. But one day in high school, Mia found out that she was more than just an ordinary girl, right? Mia found out that she was a princess. The information changed everything about her. Suddenly, she had to get a new look. She went through this metamorphosis from ugly duckling to beautiful swan. She had new riches. She got new popularity. But she also had new responsibilities. She had to go to certain dinners and meetings, and she had to represent her kingdom, right? For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, this is the story, The Princess Diaries. It's a movie that I saw on my birthday when it came out in 2001. It's a delightful story, and you should all go see it. Why am I telling you this story? Not just that it's a great movie, but it has something to teach us. Tonight, Peter is going to inform us that you also have a new identity. And with that new identity comes new responsibilities as well. Tonight we're going to be in 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 through 12. So if you have a Bible, go ahead and open up to 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 through 12. And as you do, let me remind you of where we've been. We've been through the fact that God is the one who causes us to be born again, right? That there's nothing that we can do to make ourselves love God. We're wandering around in darkness, and God is the one who brings us into His light. And not only does God make us born again, but He's the one that holds our salvation secure. Why was that important? Because the people that Peter was writing to were dispersed, no longer in their areas that they were comfortable, and they thought perhaps maybe we're under some sort of curse, and God is mad at us because life is going hard and we're not #blessed. And they got that idea from the Old Testament that if we're in our land, we're prospering well, then God must be good with us. But if we're not doing things well financially and in our land, then maybe God is mad at us. But Peter is saying, no, that's not what it looks like anymore. That's the old way of blessings. It looks more like karma than it looks like grace and mercy that we get from God. So tonight in 1 Peter chapter 2, he's going to tell us a little bit more about our new identity in Him. It says this, as you come to Him, a living stone rejected by men, but in the sight of God chosen and precious, you yourselves, like living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. For it stands in Scripture, behold, I am laying in Zion a stone, a cornerstone, chosen and precious, and whoever believes in Him will not be put to shame. So the honor is for you who believe, but for those who do not believe, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone, and a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. They stumble because they disobey the word as they were destined to do. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for His own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of Him who called you out of darkness into His marvelous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Beloved, I urge you as sojourners and exiles to abstain from the passions of the flesh, which wage war against your soul. Keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of visitation. So Peter is telling us that this is who you are now. We've been talking a little bit about sanctification, and sanctification is really just the Christian word that means what? What does it mean? What does sanctification mean? You're becoming more like God. You look more like Jesus as you go about your day. That's all it really means. So don't look at all these fancy Christian words and say, I don't know what that means. Make it accessible to yourself. Sanctification really means that you're looking more and more like God. And see, Peter is calling back to Psalm 34 that we talked about last week. If you remember, we talked about Psalm 34, verse 8, "O taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him." But Peter's not just thinking about that particular verse, he's thinking about multiple phrases in that section. Psalm 34, 4 through 5 says, "I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant, and their faces shall never be ashamed." It has this idea of when you seek the Lord, when you come to the Lord, you will find him. That's a promise of God. That's why you have Muslims who go on these journeys to seek God, and what they end up doing is finding Jesus instead. How many of you have heard those testimonies? If you have not, I have. People who seek God find him. In Matthew 7 through 8, Jesus actually says it. He says, "Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks it will be opened." So it's a promise that if you seek Jesus, you will find him. As a kind of sidebar here, I think I said it last week. If I did, forgive me, it bears repeating. Your level or depth with God of relationship, your depth of relationship with God, is about as deep as you want it to be. If it's surface level and you're just kind of like, me and God are good, that's about as deep as it's ever going to be. But Jesus and Peter are both saying that if you actually seek after Jesus, if you yearn for him, if you get on your face in a room full of 500 people, be prepared to bawl your eyes out. It might happen, it might not, but if you seek, you will find. However, when you do this, the world will mock you. They'll call you things like goody two-shoes. You'll never be as popular as you probably could be because you won't have some of those shared experiences with the in crowd. You guys know what I'm talking about. You don't necessarily go to the same parties. You don't do the same things, even if you go to those parties, like, oh man, I know high school parties, kids get offered drinks. It happens. You say, no, I don't do that because my God doesn't want me to get drunk on wine, but instead be filled by the Spirit. I'm supposed to be controlled by him, not controlled by substances on this earth. So you aren't going to be as popular as you possibly could be. But what Peter is telling you instead, if you sacrifice these things that are of the world, you are chosen and precious in the sight of God. You get something even better. You get God himself. And he's speaking into your identity. In verse 5, he says, "You yourself, like living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ." You're a stone meant for something more important than just lying around on the ground in the gravel. My first point tonight is that you need to build your life on Jesus. And you are building your life right now. So let me ask you, what are you building your life on? Is it your academics? Is it your sports? Is it your relationships? We all build our life on something. The things you do and the decisions you make don't just affect your future here. They affect your eternity. And Jesus needs to be the foundation of your life. Because here's the deal, everyone will encounter him at some point. How you respond determines everything. The Bible is clear, every knee will bow, every tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord. There is no other. It's not like Muslims get it somewhat right, so they're going to get ushered in. If they don't confess Jesus is Lord now, they will in the future, either in heaven or in hell. There is no distinction on who's bowing the knee. It's all of us. And many will encounter Jesus and they'll try to walk past him, but instead, what Peter is saying, they're actually stumbling to their doom. In verses 6 through 8, it says, "For it stands in Scripture, Behold, I am laying on Zion a stone, a cornerstone, chosen and precious, and whoever believes in him will not be put to shame." So even if you're being shamed by the world around you because you don't share the same experiences, you don't do the same things, you will not be put to shame by God for eternity. It says, so the honor is for you who believe. But for those who do not believe, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone, and a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. They stumble because they disobey the word as they were destined to do. People will go to Jesus and they'll just trip over him. They'll say, yeah, maybe he was a good teacher. Maybe he really did live, which, by the way, just from a historical standpoint, to say that maybe Jesus really was a real person is incredibly ignorant, but it's an argument that I've been hearing recently going on in the secular world. People are now starting to question if Jesus was actually a person. It's like, we have more historical documentation about Jesus and his divinity than we have of anyone else in history. And we have extra biblical resources outside of the Bible that point to the fact that Jesus really lived and really died, and his believers really know that he rose again. But people will stumble over it. They won't live for Jesus. They'll try to live for themselves. They will build their lives on their successes. And so when successes eventually fail, their life crumbles. You've all seen these people. Some people actually reach the peak of success, and when they get there, apart from Christ, they're going, this was it? Wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth the time I spent, the sacrifices I made, the relationships that I broke just so I could get here. There's no one else. So what do we do? What do we do instead? We build our life on Christ, and my next point is that you live in your new identity. See, in the passage, it says, but you. And every but in the Bible is huge, okay? Whenever you see a but in Scripture, you should highlight it, you should underline it. Yes, there's a joke there, I'm not going to say it. Okay, I'll say it. If every but in the Bible is huge, then God likes big butts and he cannot lie. None of you have ever heard of Sir Mix-a-Lot. Okay, moving on. But you has to be the most beautiful words in Scripture. Look at verses 9 through 10. You are not those who stumble. You are not those who are going to disobey. It says, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Look at what you are now. You're not just a student. You're not just living in Omaha. You are chosen by God himself, the creator of the universe, who knows everything about you. I don't know about you, but sometimes I go to God and I'm like, you sure me? Sure I'm on your team? How many of you've been chosen last for something? Maybe a sporting event, maybe it was like a group effort, whatever it may be. I think we've all experienced being chosen last, yes? At some point in our lives. God didn't choose you last. You were chosen before the foundation of the world to come to know him. You are a royal priesthood. Guys, you know what royalty means? You inherit everything that the king has. You are princes and princesses. A priest is somebody who is meant to represent God to the people around them. That they heard from God and obeyed his laws to look different so that the people around them knew how to interact with the divine. That's what a priest was supposed to do. They would offer sacrifices. So what sacrifice are you supposed to offer? Simple, your life, everything. Realizing every breath that you have is for him. Every thought that you have, you take captive and ask, how can I use my mind to glorify God? How can I make the world around me better and in his image? You're a holy nation. Not just set apart for yourself, you are set apart as a nation of believers to represent the King of the universe in community. Guys, we're made for relationships. We need each other. We need people to keep us accountable when we're feeling temptation. We need people to keep us accountable when we're feeling down and pointed towards Christ. You were once not his people, but now you are his people. He's taking this idea from the book of Hosea. How many of you know the book of Hosea? Some of us, you know I think it's the first chapter, mentions his wife. Hosea was a prophet who marries a prostitute to represent God's relationship with the people of Israel. And Hosea's wife, after they're married, goes back into prostitution to represent Israel leaving Christ, leaving God in the Old Testament. She had a kid out of wedlock that was not Hosea's kid, and God told him to name the kid, Not My People. You are now his people, but you weren't before. You were taken from darkness into his marvelous light. You were walking around life, stumbling and bumbling through this thing, and really confused, wondering, what is this all about? What does it all mean? And God has taken you into his light, saying, it's for my glory. You are now objects of mercy instead of objects of wrath. Live in your new identity. This is not something you earn. You can't read 500 Bible verses this next week and then pat yourself on the back and say, God must be happy with me now. This is who you are now. This is what Jesus made you when you believed in him, and nothing can take that away. Nothing can stop it. Live in your identity. Live in the confidence that God does love you, and he did choose you before the foundation of the world. So you may ask yourself, all right, how do I do that? How do I live in this new identity that he's given me? You've got to show God to the world around you. In 11 through 12, it says, Beloved, I urge you as sojourners and exiles to abstain from the passions of the flesh, which wage war against your soul. Keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of visitation. See, you were purchased for a purpose. And Peter says it all through this passage. Did you catch it? In verse 5, you are living stones built to be a royal priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices. Verse 9, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness. You're supposed to tell people about how wonderful God is to you. What people? Believers? Absolutely. But literally everyone around you. Verse 11, abstain from the passions of the flesh. And we talked about this last week. We talked about malice and deceit and hypocrisy and envy and all slander. That we don't look like the world looks. We don't talk like the world talks. We don't act like the world acts. We're different because we are God's. And it's so the world can't say anything negative about Christians. I'm not going to talk about hypocrisy now because I did last week. But let me take a moment to say our lives, relatively speaking, for the most part in here, are pretty good. None of us are really living in paradise. No one's perfect. No one's family is perfect. I'm not saying that. But we do not have to deal in this room with what a lot of the rest of the world is dealing with. Historically, when people are in a place like we're in, relative comfort, relative ease, they're supposed to be helping those less fortunate. Use the time that you have to seek areas that you can make a difference. Open Door Mission is a great place to go volunteer. Meet the people there. Look them in the eye. The people who are going to buy items that we would generally just throw out, they're all that they can have. Bless them. I promise you, every time I've done that, it's blessed me more than it's blessed the people I'm supposed to be helping. If you didn't know, slavery is still going on in the world. It's not dead. It's just taken a different form than what we view as slavery because of our Western Americanized history of what it is. Human trafficking is one of the largest illegal money-making enterprises in the world. And it's not just adults, it's often children are trafficked more than adults. Why is it so profitable, you may ask? It's really simple. You can only sell a bag of drugs once. You can sell a human being multiple times throughout a night. Seek organizations like International Justice Mission, which is a Christian-based organization out to end human trafficking. Get educated to the darkness that goes on in the world around you. Omaha's a hub because of where we are, the fact that we've got a good airport and some major thoroughfares that go through us north, south, east, and west. Love 146 is an organization that I was exposed to when I was in high school that's out to end human trafficking. They go and they save people out of environments and then give them aftercare. But even before that, they try to go into areas where tribes are not necessarily well educated. Mothers want better lives for their kids, especially their daughters. And what these organizations will do, they will go into these villages. They'll promise the mother that daughter, if you give daughter to me or sell daughter to me, I will take her into some sort of textile industry and give her a better life. And what mother doesn't know is that she just sold her daughter into human trafficking. And Love 146 goes into those areas and they educate people of the dangers of what is around them. Guys, we were called out of darkness into His light so that we can go shine the light in dark places again. There is a world so much bigger than just you and me here now. When I keep things like that in perspective, I find it really, really difficult to complain when I'm sitting in an air-conditioned room about something that might mildly annoy me. Get involved. Look for areas in the world that are dark, where God can shine His light through you. That's how you live out the new identity that God has called you to.
You've been listening to Crosspoint Youth Ministry. For more information or to see how you can get involved, please visit crosspointbible.org. Thank you, and God bless.